You're watching Picks on Politics with Dan Manarino.
And welcome back to Picks on Politics, everybody. Less than 2 months to go until New Jersey's big primary. At the top of the ticket, the governor's race. And we have been bringing on the candidates here to Picks on Politics. And today we're talking to Sean Spiller. He is currently the president of the New Jersey Education Association, the state's biggest teachers union. Spiller also served as the mayor of Montclair and also as a city council member. And today he's joining us to talk about his run for governor. So great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Let me ask you first the why. Why you saw this as the moment to run for governor. Did you want to, or was it somebody like the Education Association, the union, saying, hey, run?
No, it's more, I don't think either. It's for me, I've watched the system for far too long where, folks like me, average folks trying to have our voices heard have been pushed out of a system. And this is a real opportunity. We know in New Jersey, we've got our boss politics, and but thanks to Senator Andy Kim, opening that door a little bit here, we've got a chance really to have somebody elected who's going to fight for us in decisions that are made. And that's what this race is about, changing a system so that working class folks who are struggling have a voice at the seat at the table instead of constantly being pushed out.
Yeah, I want to talk about the issues in just a moment. But you also served as the mayor of Montclair, like I mentioned, and a council member. One of your opponents, Steve Fulop, is the mayor of Jersey City. He often says over and time again that somebody within municipal government needs to be in Trenton, and that he's the guy because he served in municipal office. It sounds like he doesn't recognize that you also served in municipal office. So talk about that experience and what you see as that driving force to help you in Trenton if you were to win.
Yeah, well, look, I think at the core, though, it's really about my lived experience. I came to this country as a young boy from Jamaica, and right from the start, I understood that New Jersey is a hard place to afford. My parents worked really hard for my brother and I to be able to succeed. But I've seen that as a teacher. I've seen that as a labor leader. Folks are struggling in New Jersey. I think that's at the core of what drives me. But I've seen it, yes, as mayor, you have an opportunity to move things forward and get things done. I think that's a skill that's important. But I'll just say this as well. When I, right now sit and, will be governor, I have the opportunity where I've worked with legislature as well, right? I've had to do that as a labor leader because you have to understand you got to get it through a Senate, you got to get it through an assembly to get something into law. So I think having both of those experiences is really going to be important.
A New York Times wrote an article about you this week, and in the first sentence was saying that you failed to qualify for matching state campaign funds and fell short of qualifying for the 2 upcoming debates that the state chooses. Now, I know you're going to be on our stage, which we appreciate, for the debate that we're going to host here on Pix 11. But what does that say, if you didn't qualify for matching funds, about fundraising abilities and your name recognition?
Yeah, well, first off, I think, look, by countless polls, we see we're second in the polls. We're doing really well. So I think that's out there with name recognition. But at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said before. We've got to change the system, right? We've raised well over $400,000, right, from folks who are contributing $20, $25, $30, what they can. But what are we saying? We're a system, if you don't raise almost $750,000, you can't get on a stage to have a debate and discussion when you're clearly a viable candidate and certainly someone that folks are looking for. So that's a problem with a system, right? And it's a system that constantly keeps the politically powerful, the very wealthy, the connected in those seats, and we've got to change that.
Do you think that hurts you?
Look, I think it's going to. This campaign has been different from the start, right? We've never been the ones saying I'm a millionaire, billionaire coming in. I'm not the party boss candidate. We've always known we're going to do it differently. We're going to do it with our volunteers, our energy, our efforts, and that's what's going to get our message out.
Let's talk about some of the big issues right now. I know you hear this all the time. I certainly do as a resident of New Jersey. Taxes. Yeah. My gosh, some of the highest property taxes in the country, right? So what can you do as governor? Now, I know it goes to the local level as well, but what could you do as governor to bring down property taxes? Do you want to bring down property taxes?
Well, first thing I think is when I talk about making New Jersey more affordable, it's everything. And I say that, and hear me out for just a second. When I talk about housing, right, that's out of control. Can't buy a house right now, right? It just costs are out of control. If you're renting, right, rents keep going up. If we're talking about quality early education, I got the 2 young kids, right? That's a challenge to be able to afford. When we're talking about healthcare costs that continue to rise. When we talk about energy costs, we also saw a 20% increase and another one coming. I talk about those issues as ways that I specifically am going to address to bring those costs down. That's tons of money remaining in our pockets. So I just want to start with that.
Okay.
But yes, also when we talk about property taxes, is one way we keep those down, and that's to have a state that invests in its priorities. And that's what I'll do, because I've seen all too often where there's an unfunded mandate that comes forward, and there's only one place that a mayor or council can turn, and that's to property taxes to be able to fund it. You've got to invest as a state in what your priorities are if you want to keep that down.
Do you want to lower them?
Yeah, yes. I pay them like everyone else.
Can you lower them?
I think if you invest, yes, you can, right? I think if you invest, you really can. I think it's hard, no question. There's always costs and fees that are, coming forward with new things. But, you've got to change the tax structure in New Jersey. You've got to make sure that while Donald Trump and Elon Musk are looking for, breaks for billionaires, that we're making sure we're taxing them appropriately. And then you invest those dollars in the programs and needs of the people, and that keeps your property taxes down.
Affordable housing, I've heard you talk about this quite often, right? And how do you address the lack of affordable housing issues in the state of New Jersey, but but also deal with folks who say, well, I don't want affordable housing in my neighborhood?
Well, thanks for really framing it that way. I think first and foremost, it's just that lived experience. It took me 2 years to be able to afford my first place in Montclair. Outbid. Finally able to buy that multifamily home, and those are all gone, right? LLCs, venture capitalists gobbling them up, raising our rents. As governor, I'd create a moratorium where we, the people, have a chance to buy these properties. So again, we're not getting outbid or our mortgages are so high. Number two, I'd work to make sure we get the properties that have been abandoned back on the market. Banks sit on them and tease them back in so they can keep prices up, making sure they come back on. Making sure folks don't get foreclosed on, but when they do, get the homes back on as well. Rents, here we go, right? So I think it's an important piece of it. We've left it to developers, right? We understand that you say you have to have affordable housing, but then you leave it to each town with developers to say, build this for us. They build high-end luxury units, they build a small number of affordable units, and then everybody's up in arms going, this is not in line with the character of our community. This is not what we need. I would go in and invest, putting dollars behind it to say, hey, municipalities, we're going to partner with you. We're not going to build 450 units. We're going to build 100 to 120 units, but we're going to build 20, 30 that are affordable. We're going to build workforce housing because there's plenty of people that can't qualify for affordable but could never live in the town. We're going to add workforce housing, senior housing, add veterans housing, housing for folks with disabilities. You can stack these and layer them on when you invest the dollars. When we leave it to developers, they build high-end luxury, tiny number of affordable, and people are up in arms.
And with housing comes the next question, which kind of factors into families, which goes to schools. And you are a former teacher, you're now the head of the NJEA. The Trump administration has dismantled the Department of Education, right? So what are your plans for New Jersey schools, and how does what's playing out on the federal level affect what's happening in New Jersey? Yeah,
it does. Well, first and foremost, it's just unconscionable, and it's not who we are. I mean, what are we doing here? We're talking about pulling funding away from kids with special needs. We're talking about pulling food out of kids' mouths, right, that they use for their lunch programs, right? It's unacceptable. And as governor, I know I've got to invest in our residents. I've got to invest in our future. And that's what this is all about. So for our kids, it's making sure we put those dollars there while they're pulling the $1.1 billion away from us. We're going to have to invest those dollars to make sure their kids have what they need and their futures are ahead of them.
So that goes to federal dollars that you need, right? And so the question I often ask folks is, how do you plan to stand up to the Trump administration if there is a threat to pull federal dollars for having a voice?
Yeah, thank you for asking that too, because listen, my answer is I will not compromise on our values, right? Absolutely not. He's asking folks to bend the knee, kiss the ring, and you know what? Every time it doesn't matter, there's always the next ask, the next thing that they come at you with, and it's unacceptable to me. We're not going to compromise on our rich diversity in our state. We're not going to compromise on what our kids need. For me, it's saying, no, not going to happen here. And by the way, if you steal all these dollars to give these tax breaks to Elon Musk and other billionaires, we're going to change our New Jersey tax code to get those very dollars right back and invest them in the programs that we're losing.
Right, but then there comes the threat, right? If you change tax code, there's the threat. So now the tariff issue is a big part of the conversation in keeping costs down. There's the 125% tariff on China. The rest of them are 90-day pause. How do you see yourself of bringing down the cost of goods if those tariffs were to remain and you were to be governor?
Yeah, look, I think that Donald Trump is doing a lot of things that are hurting us right now, right? Where you talked about before, cuts to programs that we certainly need, cuts to departments that are eliminating aid and support that we need, tariffs that are making sure prices are going up because there's such uncertainty in the market even when he pulls back or goes forward again. All of these things are hard at the state level to kind of deal with when you've got a president who's out of control in this way. But what you can do is say, hey, I'm going to add some stability to the system by clearly stating what our values are and that we're going to invest in these values. And when Donald Trump fluctuates, goes back and forth, at the end of the day, we've read Project 2025. The goal is to give massive tax breaks, tax cuts to billionaires. Well, we can control New Jersey's tax code. And by changing New Jersey's tax code, we can pull those dollars right back, keep them in our state, and invest them in the things they're trying to cut.
All very good. Mr. Spiller, we're out of time, giving everybody equal time, but I appreciate you being here in person.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate that.
And still to come, everybody, the federal government taking back nearly $200 million from New York City. So when we come back, how the loss of these funds for the migrants could impact the everyday life of New Yorkers.